Want to go international and bring you the latest out of the Middle East? The Israel Defense Force is releasing this video here saying that troops are now deployed near Syria's border with Golan Heights, quote, raising readiness for various scenarios. The IDF adds it, quote, will thwart any threat to Israel's citizens and borders. The Israeli military saying this comes after a situational assessment as well as those developments in Syria's internal fighting. So much to discuss when we talk about the situation there in Syria as well as in Gaza and in Lebanon. So I do want to bring in Javed Ali, an associate professor of practice at the University of Michigan's Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy to discuss it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Josh, always nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, first off, I want to talk about the situation ongoing there in Syria. What sort of impact could that have on what we are seeing in Lebanon and in Gaza?
So the situation in Syria over the last few days is pretty remarkable because what's happened is a coalition of groups that were previously fighting the Assad government have now banded together and made progress to capture territory in a pretty wide swath of territory stretching from northeastern Syria now, kind of cutting diagonally across the country. And it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. They've already captured Idlib province and the major city of Aleppo, the second biggest city in Syria. And the coalition that is in charge of this campaign is for the most part comprised of Syrian fighters who previously were either aligned with Al-Qaeda or other jihadist groups. So this has a very different feel to it, and it also shows the limits of what Iran and Hezbollah and Russia were able to do, propping up the Assad regime in Syria for almost the last decade. So this is really, really complex and complicated, and in a way, it almost feels like what the international community saw when the Taliban came back into power and started taking big chunks of territory in Afghanistan in 2021 before the U.S. withdrawal later that summer.
And that video, once again, that's there on the left-hand side of your screen, that was released by the IDF showing them at the Israel and Syria border as they are there to protect residents. Now, I want to pop up this live image that we have outside of Al-Aqsa Hospital. This is over in Gaza, talking a little bit more about the situation there. Israel is actually expecting to send a delegation to Cairo next week for those renewed ceasefire talks. And Hebrew media is reporting that the latest deal on the table was proposed by Egypt, and it's going to offer an extended ceasefire in Gaza, allowing the elderly, children, women, and badly wounded hostages to be released. Now, Israel says that it is considering it, but I wanted to get your take. Is it likely that Israel will settle right now for the release of only some of those hostages?
Yeah, Josh, that's another really difficult question to answer because, as you and I have talked about over the past year, that we've at these different moments talked then about potential ceasefire deals that were being considered. You know, one side proposing them, the other side saying no. And so, is this latest deal with the conditions around it is Prime Minister Netanyahu and his war cabinet, are they willing to accept those terms? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. The military campaign has not stopped either at the same time. And we're now getting closer to January 20th, 2025, when President Trump is going to come back into office. And he already made this claim, I think it was on Truth Social a couple of days ago, where he said that if all the hostages aren't released by the time he comes back in office, that there will be serious consequences for both Hamas and possibly even Iran. So how much of that is making or having a factor on whatever the ceasefire negotiations are right now? I mean, that's just another one of these open questions.
And I want to pop up this video as well that came in from the IDF not too long ago. They released this footage here that shows the inside, they say, of two tunnels where hostages were held over in the Gaza Strip. What do you see overall as you look at some of this video? Obviously, some of it is graphics that were made, but you also see pictures and images here. So what do you make of that?
From the videos that have been sent by the IDF or released by the IDF, it's pretty chilling to see the scope and breadth of even this one section of the tunnel network under the Gaza Strip. Some of it looks fairly built out, but other parts of it look very austere and very Spartan. And you can only imagine the conditions of the people who are in there, the conditions for the people that are in there, whether they're the hostages or even the Hamas fighters, and just trying to put yourself in those kind of shoes and thinking that people are living like that underground for days, if not weeks or months, and how many, even on the hostage side, are still alive, given the fact that those conditions look pretty bleak, at least in some of these tunnel networks. And that's only one slice of a much broader network of tunnels under Gaza Strip. And how much of that has been destroyed by Israel? Again, open question. We don't know.
All right, Javed Ali, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and break down all of the latest developments there that are coming in out of the Middle East. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Yeah, just it's going to be really interesting to see over the next couple of weeks, kind of how these potential ceasefire negotiations, where they wind up, and the threat that President Trump sort of put on the table, whether that's going to be a key driver to get a deal done sooner rather than later, or will everything have to wait until he actually returns back in office?
All right, Javed Ali, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Josh.